guys, what's up? It's Olivia. Welcome back to my channel, Olivia's Grad School Vlogs, where I share my experience of being a media psychology student at Penn State. Long time no see. I know, it's because this entire year I have been just trying to get my thesis done, and good news, I've passed. The thesis is defended. I'm completely done with my Master's in Media Studies program. Now, the thesis writing process took so much longer than I expected, which is why in today's video I'm going to be telling you about the timeline that I took to go from writing drafts, getting IRB approval, scheduling committee defenses, all of that, so you can kind of get an idea of what this timeline looks like. Of course, my experience is going to be completely different than everybody else's experiences. Also, I am a quantitative social scientist, so I did run an experiment for my thesis. I had to run a pretest on stimuli and get IRB approval. So if you're qualitative or not doing that, then your process might look a little bit different, but that is what I did. So I knew pretty early on what my thesis topic was going to be. In fact, I had proposed this experiment during one of the first courses I took that first semester, and my professor said, hey, hold on to this would be a good thesis topic if you're interested in exploring this further. So I said, great, I will do that. In January of my first year, I got my advisor, and a few months after that, I got my committee members, told them kind of my idea about the experiment, and they signed off on it and said, that sounds good. In the summer after my first year, I started working on the draft again, looking back at my professor's comments from when I originally wrote it during the course. So from July through mid-October, I was going back and forth, now sending drafts to my advisor, her giving me feedback, say beef up this section, or maybe rearrange this a little bit, try looking into this literature, so I could get it as prepped as I could for my actual thesis proposal committee meeting? Defense? The proposal. During that summer, I was working on drafts. I was also finding stimuli and getting a pretest together, then also looking how other studies in the body image field pre-tested their stimuli so that mine could be as close to that as possible. So on October 17th, I sent out an email to my committee saying, hey, here's my proposal, let's schedule a defense meeting, and we scheduled that meeting it was the week of November 6th. What I did do though is I submitted my pretest IRB paperwork to try to get approval. The original goal was to have IRB approval by the time I had my committee meeting, so that if my committee members wanted me to make any changes, I could do that real quick and then send off the study. The problem was, that didn't happen. I had some IRB issues, and I ended up not getting that approved until December 6th. So it took 6 weeks for me to get IRB approval for a very simple pretest where I was having people indicate whether a model was skinny or not. That is something that very much slowed down my timeline. My original goal was to have my data collection done before Christmas break, and now I wasn't getting it done until mid-January. So to recap, 10/17 I sent out my meeting schedule proposal meeting, 10/18 I filled out pretest IRB paperwork, November 6th through 13th I had my proposal meeting with my committee. They gave me feedback for a couple of things to change for the pretest, which is allowed if it's exempt research, you can make minor changes to it. And then they also gave me feedback so that I could continue doing drafts of my literature review that I had thus far. I then got IRB approval for my pretest on December 6th, and I didn't start collecting until January 13th once semester got going again. After gathering data for a few days on the pretest, I then analyzed it, saw which pictures to pop into my actual Qualtrics, and now I was submitting my survey and my IRB paperwork for the actual study. Keep in mind when you're writing a thesis, not only are there going to be department dates, but there are also going to be university-wide dates. So on February 11th, I had to send the draft of my thesis thus far for a format review. So my school has a very specific way that you have to format your master's thesis. You can still do APA style in terms of citing references, but there's like a cover page and acknowledgements and a title and a table of contents. So I was doing all of that, sent it off on February 11th, and I was also continuing to do drafts at this point. On February 6th is when I completed that paperwork for IRB, submitted it, and I actually got approved this time. Amazing what happens when you get your professor involved. 2 weeks later. So by February 14th, I had my study approved, and on the 19th, I started gathering data. What I ended up doing is having to reach out to specific professors individually, say, hey, would you mind running my study as part of extra credit? And then about half the participants I also got from Amazon's MTurk. I ended up not getting my data completed and doing the analysis until the week before spring break, so March 2nd through March 6th. At this point, I was writing up the results section, cleaning the data, all of that stuff, running the test, and for whatever reason, I was thinking that I needed to have my results and discussion section done before I sent it to my advisor to look at, but really I only needed the results section done. This is something that put me back 3 weeks to a month, because what ended up happening is I had the data analysis done before spring break, but didn't have the discussion done, and I actually traveled this time for spring break. So my thesis was just sitting there the entire week of spring break. I didn't get to the discussion section until that next week. I sent it to my advisor, and then all this COVID stuff was going on. So it took her about another week and a half to get back to me. And when she got back to me, she was talking specifically about the results section and things we needed to change there. So I didn't even need to do anything with discussion. That was a complete waste of time. And had I sent to her my results before spring break, I could have been literally several weeks ahead and then made those revisions to the results and started the discussion in March. What we ended up doing was the first 2 weeks of April, we were sending emails back and forth and Zooming to make sure that I was doing the results section correctly, and then there were some analyses that she was having me add to it, which I'm so glad, because that means I found something in my thesis. And then on April 16th, I sent her just a very choppy, not complete draft of my discussion section. So basically I had just like the headings and a couple things in each one, just to ask her, hey, am I on the right track? She said, yes, you're on the right track. And then on April 25th, I sent her a complete draft. At this point, she said, it looks great. I made a few minor track changes, but we can go ahead and schedule your committee meeting. So on April 29th, I sent out an email to my committee, and we ended up deciding that Monday, May 11th was going to be the day that I was going to defend my thesis. During this time, I was finishing up a paper for a final in another class, so thankfully I had that week where I was able to only focus on my paper. Then the weekend before, I put together my PowerPoint slide. On Monday, I defended it. The changes that they gave me were incredibly minor. I added about 5 sentences to my thesis. So on May 12th, I added those 5 sentences, sent it back to my advisor. She said, looks good to go. And then I was able to upload it to the graduate website and send off to get signatures from my committee. In 10 days of me completing my thesis, I have all of the signatures. It is uploaded and approved by the graduate school, and I have paid all of my fees. It was like a $23 fee to upload it to the electronic theses and dissertation database. But that is all done. So within 10 days of that, I am completely done now with my master's thesis. This project took so much longer than I would have thought. It was also one of those things where the entire time I thought I was ahead and making good headway on it, and then there were just blips in the road that came up, whether it was with IRB or it took me longer to do something than I had realized. Now I'm much better prepared for when I do a dissertation in a few years. I hope you guys found this timeline helpful, that everyone's experience and timeline is going to be slightly different, but this is just an idea of what mine was like. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day. Keep dreaming out loud, and I will see you guys next time.